Oh, well, hello, Downers. How we doing today? Welcome to another episode of Stand Down. My name is Daniel Reskin. So happy you could join us on this journey, understanding the love-hate relationship of stand-up comedy with ex-comedians and also some who are kind of just pausing and figuring it out, but mostly ex-comedians. Today we have a very special episode in that the person I'm interviewing, unlike the last 9 episodes, I had not met previously on my journey through comedy. This is a new person to me who actually reached out because she herself has a podcast called the Self-Helpless podcast, which is also comedy and mental health. She somehow stumbled upon my tiny baby little podcast and seemed to like it. And here we are. We're going to talk. We're going to find out her journey through comedy. She is also an ex-comedian who found her way into a number of other ventures, which is exciting. Comedians are good at stuff, you know? Maybe comedy is just one of the things you're good at as a human, and you're not really a comedian. And that's just what you are until you get to be the thing that you really are. Like a life coach, consultant, guru, podcaster. Don't know. We're gonna find out today. I'm excited for this new crossover pod. I'm not going to be on there. They have actual stars and things like that. So we're going to interview her, and thankfully so. Please enjoy this talk with Delanie Fischer.
Hello.
Hey there.
How's it going? How are you?
Very good. How about yourself?
Good. Doing well. Like the background. Very nice.
I'm trying to keep it calming, you know.
Yes, I like it.
Little nature therapy. But yeah, thank you so much for reaching out to do this.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I love the concept of it. It's freaking brilliant. So I'm very excited.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much. Let's start with just your comedy journey then.
Sure.
So on your website, it says you did comedy for about 6 years.
Yeah, about 6.5 years. I started in college as, just for fun, and really fell in love with it there, and decided to, when I graduated, I would move to LA and really immerse myself in the comedy scene out there, and just kind of snowballed to me, doing it all the time, everywhere, traveling, festivals, some TV stuff. But I found myself really kind of like an internal struggle between the love I had for comedy, because I love the craft, I love the writing, I love being around comedians in the green room, I love all that kind of stuff. I liked performing, but it wasn't my favorite aspect of stand-up, I'll be honest, which is, probably not great. But there was a battle between the love of the craft and really the lifestyle not fitting what I wanted my life to look like. And so I loved this thing, but I hated what I had to do to do it. The kind of the steps I had to take to even get to the stage and get to the green room and, all that stuff. And so it was definitely a love-hate relationship, after probably year number 3, maybe even like the 2.5 years in, I knew okay, this is not going to be sustainable for me, but I have no idea what I want to do besides this. So I'm going to keep it around and allow myself to explore a bunch of other different, things like producing, writing, acting, all that stuff, until I figure out how I want to use this to kind of pivot out of this. So I knew kind of.
Wow. So very early in, you were looking for that escape route.
Yeah, I was.
Which was my next question, was when does that delusion break that hey, everybody, we're all going to make it? When, some people that never wears off, and some people say you need a healthy dose of that to actually make it in stand-up.
For sure. Yeah.
Do you think you were fooling yourself those first few years, or just kind of doe-eyed at the whole thing?
I think it was the fact that I was just allowing myself to experiment with a bunch of different stuff, and stand-up was one of them. And it did become, a huge part of my life, but it was never the only thing I was trying. I was always doing stand-up on top of other stuff. And so I knew, I saw the path of, okay, this is what you would need to do to crush it at stand-up. This is what the lifestyle is. And do I want that for myself? Because I have a lot of incredibly talented, successful friends, and I was around big comedians, when I was performing, and I saw what the trajectory was. And I'm like, well, if I don't even want the lifestyle that everybody's kind of striving for, like if the end game is like, what you're touring theaters and you have a show, a TV show, and you have all this stuff. If I don't even like that as my day to day, then what am I doing here?
Working
like
backwards, kind of.
Yeah. So I'm like, wait a minute, this is not going to work for me, because I know the longer I stay doing it, the offers are going to get harder and harder to turn down. I'm going to just keep doing more of it, even though I'm not happy doing it. I felt like I was going to get stuck.
A victim of success, kind of just like, this is working. So
I was scared. I was scared that it was working. That's what it was. It was like, I was scared to be out there even more, because I'm like, well, shit, I don't want to get an offer that I can't turn down, because I will do it. And I know I'm not going to be happy doing it, but I will not be able to say no. And I started kind of noticing that relatively early on.
It's very mafia-esque right there.
I guess so. I always have like one foot in, one foot out. Like, I'm here,
they keep pulling you back in.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I'm, as soon as I figure out something else, as soon as I find that trap door, I'm fucking out of here. You know what I mean?
But is it always showbiz adjacent after you found comedy? It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go be a massage therapist or an accountant.
Yes, it was. I explored the entertainment industry a lot. I worked in corporate entertainment. I, wrote a movie that, was aired on Lifetime. I produced, comedy special, and I produced, sketches and all this stuff.
I'm sure my mom loved your movie.
Yeah,
by the way.
I did it for my mom as well.
In advance, yeah.
Full circle moment, called Bad Tutor, if you want to check it out. And it's as terrible as it sounds. So yeah, I did a lot of different things, and I wasn't loving any of it. So I was like, I felt very lost with it. But I knew stand-up was kind of leading to these other opportunities that allowed me to explore. Like I wouldn't have gotten any of those other opportunities if it weren't for stand-up, and I was very aware of that. So it's something I felt like I had to keep around in order to kind of leverage it and use it as a tool. And so when I feel like I explored the entertainment industry, I realized, okay, I know I want to leave. And what do I want my life to look like? Like, what do I want to do with my day and my time? What do I want my nights and weekends to look like? And I realized I wanted to work from home. I wanted to create my own schedule. I wanted to do something creative. I didn't really want to be out all the time. And
you don't want to be up at 2 a.m. eating cold chicken fingers in the green room? Are you kidding me?
I did.
That's the dream.
I've done that. Yeah, it was great while it lasted, not knocking it. But yeah, that's when I kind of was like, okay, how do I use stand-up to get myself out of it?
Right. And in that process, was there any feeling of kind of like feeling like a fraud, or feeling like all the comics around you know that you're not as serious as them and you're only doing this for XYZ? Or although it is LA, I know LA is a little more, everyone's a slash comic in some ways, but
there's definitely that vibe out out here that's like, look, if you're here because your agent told you to get 10 minutes of stage time, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, that is the vibe, of course. And I definitely was doing it more often than that. So my problem was actually people thought I was doing it full time, and I felt like a phony because people assumed I was a full-time feature headliner, whatever, and I had a day job. So I actually felt weird going into, shows and meeting with people, them just assuming like, oh, where are you headlining next? What are your next tour dates? And being like, in a month.
We're coming up. Yeah.
Tomorrow. You know what I mean? And so I kind of felt bad that people were assuming that of me, and that wasn't what was going on. And so I kind of kept that hidden. Which
everybody feels like a phony, I'm realizing, no matter what stage of comedy you are, from day one to year 99.
Yeah.
Some way to feel like a phony.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is crazy. So like, how would you describe your current relationship with stand-up comedy?
So I respect the craft completely. I have a lot of friends that do it full time and are brilliant at it. And so I respect the art of it, but I know it's not for me, so I'm able to still like watch it and enjoy myself. But I feel like it's an ex-boyfriend. You know what I mean? I feel like
Yeah.
it's off sleeping with everybody else, and that's okay. I'm okay with it. Like I'm no longer.
You're at that cool point, right?
We're
You,
cool.
I'll do me.
We're cool. We're acquaintances. If I see him at a party, it's not awkward,
Mm-hmm.
But
if
I
like a
have.
friend wants to date stand-up comedy, you're gonna give them the real deal. You're not gonna
Oh
sugarcoat
yeah,
it.
yeah. I'm like, this is what you have to know. Okay, he will
like
break your heart. He will be amazing in bed, and it's going to be very confusing. You know what I mean? So yes, it is very much like I have no more feelings for it, but like I appreciate it. I don't want to be doing it myself, but yeah, I had a great time. Like I feel like I packed a lot of experiences into 6.5 years, and I'm really grateful for it. And I think it's led me to what I'm doing now. But it was just like a chapter of my book. It's a chapter.
Yeah. And was the special, because you have like a special or like a half hour online, the very funny cousin centric special, which I have to admit, in my family I also have a cousin couple.
Do you really? Oh my gosh.
An uncle. That's right.
Oh
they were super old before they did it, but still, yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. So yep, I have.
But was that like a goodbye love letter to comedy, or was that still when you were kind of like going for it?
Yeah, that was a goodbye. That was my farewell to comedy special. I had this weird idea, and it was just a bit at the time where I talked about like this cousin stuff in my family. And I'm like, you know what? I just want to make a whole special about this one like taboo topic and then fucking leave. Like that was it. I'm just going to film this special. It's going to be weird. And then I'm going to leave. That's what I did. So it was definitely not the norm for a comedy special. It wasn't my greatest hits. It wasn't like all my A material in one special. And I thought about doing that too, but I just kind of wanted to bring like this kind of weird, concept to life. And I gave that to myself as like a graduation ceremony. Like this was my final project before leaving. And I felt like if I didn't give that to myself, I was not going to be able to like fully move on from it, because I would have felt like, wait, there was no commencement of this situation. Right. Nobody's going to give you a fucking certificate after your last set. You know what I mean?
Right. So, okay. So even something tangible, not just something to prove. Right.
Yeah. It was weird. I felt like I had to have something tangible that I was in control of. And that was the special that I chose to do.
Awesome. That's cool. That's even more on your own terms, because getting all your A material together and doing your greatest hits is such a I'm still in comedy thing to do.
Yeah.
Whereas focusing on this fun, weird, unique, taboo subject and being like, hey, everyone, by the way, yada, yada, dwell on that. I'm out of here. Think about that. Check drop. Peace. Like,
I felt like my A stuff was really for the audience, not for me, or like it wasn't.
Right. I was sick as it so often is, right? You outgrow your material, you just do what works and you cling to it. So many comedians do that.
Yeah, I wasn't connected to it anymore. And I figured, well, I might as well do something that I'm connected to in that moment before leaving. So, yeah.
And what was that next connection that you found?
The next connection, like leading stand-up?
Mm-hmm.
So
that escape hatch.
Yes. So I had a really strange hobby for like a few years on the down low called Dicks by Delanie. It was started as a joke. And I went to a holiday party with a bunch of comedians one year, and they said, hey, you got to bring something that, for the white elephant gift exchange, like make something. And so I drew a bunch of colorful penises on this coffee mug, and then people liked it. And then they started buying them from me. So that became like
it's a gold mine.
Yeah, this ridiculous hobby. Yeah. And so I had been doing it consistently, like on the down low for friends and families and comedians and stuff for a
I
while.
like it sounds black market how you say on the down low. You're
It
like,
was on the
no one
down
could
low.
know about this. All right. This is
It wasn't like I was promoting it and marketing it and like, really going
I'm
out
the
there.
dick lady. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I looked at that and like, wait a minute, this thing has been like collecting money for a few years, as a hobby. It would allow me to create my own schedule and work from home. What would it look like if I tried to make this a real business and went all in with Dicks by Delanie and leveraged my comedy connections and my experience in stand-up to market this shit?
Mm.
So I launched the business for real, and I was able to leave my day job and stand-up because stand-up was still bringing in an income for me, even though it wasn't full-time. And I was able to leave both of those things in less than a year to draw penises on coffee mugs full time. So I basically, yes, golf clap. I basically figured out like how to be a stay-at-home comedian is how I was kind of marketing it. Like, look, I'm no longer happy traveling and telling jokes on stage, but listen, I'm still telling jokes in my living room, in my sweatpants. And if you want to buy one of my dick jokes, you can still do that, but it's in coffee mug form now.
Mm.
So that's kind of how I shifted it. And I gifted mugs to my friends in comedy, and they would give me shout outs and stuff. So it was like a very organic kind of move, even though it was a completely different business,
Right.
than stand up. So that grew. And then I ended up hiring a couple cartoonists on board because we got busy with orders, and we shifted from physical products to digital products. And then we started selling digital dick cartoons. We started turning people into penis cartoons. Yeah. And that was how I left. And then that kind of led into what I do now. So
Right. Which
yeah.
is more of like a coaching, consulting, managing kind of a role.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened was comedians, entrepreneurs, artists started noticing that like I was making a full-time living painting penises basically, or managing penis artists. And they were like, how the hell are you doing this? Can you help me with my dream job, my hobby, my career? And so I started consulting on the side, and I fell in love with doing that and realized like all the things I had tried throughout my career, I was able to use that skill set and give it to somebody else, and help them. So I had two businesses. I had a consulting business and I had a product-based business. And that they both got very busy, and I had to pick which one I wanted to go all in with. And I chose coaching.
Mm.
So yeah, now I help entrepreneurs basically start and scale their own projects and businesses, in a very simple way,
Yeah. Yeah. And you leaning towards that rather than the past business, was that just because you saw more kind of depth and potential in this, or was it just more new and more skills to gain and more experiences to have?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really love the one-to-one connection. And as much as I loved putting penis art in the world, I felt like a bit disconnected from it. Like I wasn't talking to my,
You lost your passion, just
customers.
like those jokes, like the original set. You had your
Exactly.
penis art set that you were just selling now.
Right. I felt like I wasn't connecting to the customers, and like I know that it was making their day better and stuff like that, but I felt creatively unfulfilled then. And like that's not why I started my own business, to feel creatively unfulfilled. I really liked this. Yeah, this like one-to-one interaction is my jam. And this is what I loved the most about stand up, is just talking to people in the green room about deep shit. Like that's what was really exciting for me. That would be the highlight of my night versus performing. So
Right.
I knew that about myself. Like I really like connecting with people in this way and talking about, their lives and their dreams and their goals. But I just didn't know that was going to be a career I had.
Hmm.
You know?
I really like that, because in comedy, sometimes there'd be these moments where you think of a concept that's very funny and you're like, is that a stand-up joke? Is that a comic? Is that a scene in a movie? How does
Yeah.
that work? But I've never really thought about people in the same way, that like, I'm not maybe necessarily the funniest stand-up comedian. I'm a funny. And am I a funny stand-up comedian? Am I a funny business producer? Am I a fun, like, what is
Yeah.
the shape of the me gonna take? Like the
Yeah,
best form for it?
exactly. Exactly. Now I feel like I'm just a very no bullshit, uncensored, tell it like it is business coach. You know, like that part of me as a stand-up comedian that was very honest on stage and sarcastic and stuff, that shit is still here, but I'm doing something very different with it.
Are you the next Gary Vaynerchuk?
No, definitely not.
I don't mean to be that in an insulting way. I mean, maybe an anti.
No, Gary Vee is his own thing. I appreciate what he's doing. I'm actually I coach very differently than Gary Vee. Gary Vee's like, be everywhere all the time, all the apps forever.
Yeah,
and
I'm not
like,
sweating right now. So
yeah, right. Listen, let's rest and choose one thing to do. You know,
I can
all
appreciate
about simplicity. That. Yeah.
Well, that is so cool. Let me just check on time here because I don't want to start. Okay, that's good. Good. 10 minutes. Love it. Something I like to ask everybody is, when you were a comedian, one, how readily did you volunteer that information to strangers?
Oh, good question.
And two, well, I'll ask second after that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Not often. Not often. I just didn't want to talk about it with people. Like so many of course, you've heard every response in the book. Like, yeah, what's your stick? And are you funny?
Well,
and tell
number two, tell me a joke. What was your response when people asked that?
Oh my God. I would usually say like something like, I'm off the clock, you know, like, or something just, yeah, sorry. Or, you know, if I knew what they were, I'd be like, ooh, sell me a house. You're a real estate agent, right? Mm-hmm. So, God, I would only tell people if I was usually in an entertainment setting. Like if I was at like a, I don't know, a networking event or something, then I might say, yeah, I'm a comedian. But if I was anywhere else, it was really like, I work in corporate entertainment. We don't have to talk about it. Like I'm not trying to get into a conversation, but a lot of people might find out that I did do it and then ask a million questions.
And then you're the comedy person I know.
Oh yeah, it was very draining talking about it for sure.
I like how you throw corporate out in front as like a diffuser. It's like, no, this is
boring. Yeah, exactly. Don't ask questions because it's office job. No, don't worry about it. Yeah.
So are you still a comedian? And how long after someone stops doing stand-up? You know, if you're a plumber for 10 years and stop being a plumber for a year, are you still, you know?
Oh yeah, good question. So I would say I no longer tell people I'm a comedian. So if somebody asks, hey, what do you do? I say I'm a business coach and I'm a podcaster, or maybe I just say business consultant if I don't really want to get into it, whatever. However, I am still part of a pretty big comedy podcast. So some people still view me as a comedian because even though I stopped doing stand-up, of course, people can be a comedian if they're a comedic actor. If they do musical comedy, they're considered a comedian. So I guess I'm still referred to as a comedian by other people sometimes, but I no longer identify with that title. But I know that I'm still kind of connected to that world. So yeah, it's like it's a weird place to be with your identity. Like some people might see you a certain way still, but you've moved on from that identity. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Like I'm involved in both kind of still.
Yeah, it's like having an alias or something. It's like,
yes,
that was a past life. I don't bounty hunt anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Or like people will find my special and then add me on social media and then they're very confused. Like, wait a minute, she is not doing stand-up anymore. This is not what I signed up for. Bye. You know? So it's weird. I'm sure it's confusing for people, for sure.
As long as it's not confusing for you.
Yeah, I feel fine about it.
That's good. Fine. Do you think once everything of COVID passes and everything, the Self-Helpless podcast, a live show, what's happening? Oh, they're doing stand-up? Everyone's doing stand-up. Oh, do you want to do a set, Delanie? What's happening? Is it going to happen?
We actually ran into this before. So we did live shows before COVID, and we did a few live shows when I was still doing stand-up or like easing out of it, where we would all do a set and then we'd record an episode after the sets. And then I stopped doing it and we were ramping up for a tour and I'm like, what the hell are we going to do? So then we started just doing a live recording of an episode and we'd have a special guest on. But yeah, we were talking about like, okay, if we go on like a big tour and stand up as an element, I guess I'm just going to be either the MC, or I'll be given like a fucking TED talk. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I'll be handing out t-shirts. I'm not really sure. So we never we never had to figure that out. But, I was very concerned about that. I'm like, this is going to be very strange.
Dragged back in.
Exactly. Exactly. I probably would have been the MC, and just been like mildly funny.
A couple jokes up front, warm them up. Yeah.
Couple jokes, little crowd work, and then be like, you guys know that I don't do this anymore. So let's just get the show on the road,
Which would be kind of fun to like do stand-up comedy to an audience that already knows your exact position on no longer being a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
That adds a whole new level of like fun and irony and nuance and weirdness.
Yep. I actually started writing like, okay, if I did do a set, it would be about why I hated stand-up comedy. So I'd be doing stand-up about why I left.
But what if you love those jokes?
I know.
No, with
like a PowerPoint, like, this is me. Yeah. So I thought about all that shit. Like, look, I have stage fright, yet I was on stage every night. I was like all these things that just were not working.
So cool.
Didn't make sense.
Well, in the last few minutes, we're talking about your podcast. You've been doing it for a long time. You've had some amazing guests on, and you've explored, so I've been catching up, but I'm sure you've explored so many aspects of mental health and comedy. And I just love if you could share any nuggets of wisdom you've pulled from your time on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, so much. As far as mental health with comedy, I think it's just really, the industry is so insane that the industry can be really crazy, and you can feel rejected a lot, and you can feel like the pressure to hustle all the time and not take breaks. And so we have found that, the people that seem to be happy and grounded in it have really found their own way to do it, and they've kind of rejected a lot of that external pressure of everybody else and what the agents are saying and what the directors are saying and what they all seem to have their own thing and their own control over their craft in some way. And so that's kind of the trend I've noticed as far as, the comedians that we've had on, is like, they seem to be a lot happier when they started saying, I don't need you, I'm going to do it myself. And then, that's kind of when things kind of took off. So,
wow.
But yeah, so I would say you trust yourself internally, like trust what you find funny and what you want to be doing and what lifestyle you want to be living. And I think comedy can still fit into what makes you happy too,
Yes. I love that. I mean, it comes down to kind of like redefining your relationship with comedy, which is the whole reason I started this podcast. Because I was like, why am I not enjoying this as much? Do I want to quit? Do I not want to quit? I thought I loved this.
I would love to hear where you're at with stand up. Yeah.
I guess briefly, I'm 14 years in now, but I'd say maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I started just not going out as much, and I wasn't really sure why. And I started my first 8 years in Miami, which was a great place to come up as a comedian, especially as a very shy person. I feel like I needed a little more time to cook.
Yeah.
But I moved to Denver to move to a bigger venue, but not New York or LA, because everyone said to do that, and I wanted to do my own thing, and they have a cool, funky scene here in Denver. And it was an amazing, bigger, more robust scene, and which made it even more confusing when I started falling out and being like, I'm getting the scene that I wanted. Why am I not putting in even more effort? I'm like, if I'd put in the effort I did in Miami here, I would be doing extremely well in the scene, and all sorts of things like that. And so kind of just disappearing from the mics. I kept a monthly show just to keep it going. And, through beating myself up a lot, I eventually realized I don't have to quit. I don't have to not quit. I'm still a funny person. I still know how to do stand-up. It's given me a great skill set, as you've mentioned, tool belt that I can bring to other things. So this is one of those things. And then just realizing how many people I knew who were like, the funniest people in the world are not the most famous people for being funny. Like there's the people at the top are very funny, but not necessarily, like they had a lot of other qualities that got them to the top, or a mix of luck and opportunity and marketing and networking. You know, there's a lot of line cooks out there who are just so goddamn funny, and you'll never meet them in your whole life, you know?
Right, right. Yeah. And I think you really have to love the lifestyle too. Like you have to be okay with that. I remember talking to two of my best friends who are very, very successful comedians. Like, um, if you found yourself having to spend the night in an airport, you know, on the way to a comedy show, like, how would you feel doing that? And they both said, like, beats having an office job, totally worth it, no big deal. And I said, like, I would feel like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Why am I on this airport floor? I want to go home. Why do I keep putting myself in these positions? And so I think that can tell you a lot, like what you're, you know, if you're enjoying the process of it, then okay, like, that's great. You know, it's worth it for you. But if you're not enjoying the process, like, there's probably a way you can bring what you enjoy about it into something else. Like, what do you find that you enjoy the most about stand up?
Entertaining people, making them laugh, making them smile, something I've always done. And yeah, I've kind of found my way to YouTube, and now I'm playing on Twitch more than ever. There's all sorts of people live streaming, not just video games, but like weird TV shows and art and music on Twitch. And there's all these weird, you can press things to make things pop up, and it's insane. Like, you know, and yeah, making people laugh, you know.
Amazing. Well, like, you know, there's so many ways you can do that, which you're obviously doing. So that's good. You know, that's good. Cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that. The half hour has passed for the interview.
Oh, right.
Allotment. I want to be quite respectful of your schedule.
Thank you. This was fun.
We have a consulting appointment ourselves after. I get some of that efficiency guru goodness.
Oh, I can't wait.
Coming up. I'm like, I almost just want to
further with you. Yeah.
Oh, really yeah. I'm like, that's the real episode. Sorry, you guys aren't going to be able to see it, but
yeah.
There was a lot to sink their teeth into today. I think it was really great. And thank you so much for sharing your story with everyone.
Thanks for having me. This was so cool.
Awesome. Appreciate it. And a little plug that my people...
Oh, yeah. You can go to DelanieFischer.com. That has all the stuff there. The podcast, the coaching info, you know, the whole shebang.
All right. And follow them on YouTube. When you're watching this, jump over to them. Same deal. Awesome. Thanks again, Delanie.
Thanks so much, Daniel. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
All right, bye.
And cut.